These times are strange, it's quite surreal. It's never been like this. Remembering the good old days when we could hug and kiss. Back to gyms and restaurants and move through public settings. We'd give high fives and drink at dives, hold hands and dance at weddings. Now the days are longer, yet the darker in the way. We're pressing pause on normalcy, just going day by day. But we can still make jokes and art, garden, dance and sing. Cook, read books, try on fun looks and learn about new things. We can talk with friends of ours and have a heart to heart, just so long as we all stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you, 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical, so step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to 6 Feet Apart Productions presents Holiday Myths and Magic. And I'll be your MC and hostess for the evening, Regina Stoops. My co-producer, Claire, who usually does these curated shows, is a bit ill. She had a bit of, we'll call it a bougainvillea bonk on the head, and she's still recovering from that, which is great because she never lets me take a hold of the microphone. So it's just really killing her that I get the spotlight for the evening, especially since we have such a stellar cast. So welcome. Hey, hello to everyone who's on YouTube. Please be sure to put your name in the chat or tell us where you're from. We always like to know where the audience is from. And let's get a shot of our backstage audience. We have the storytellers, but then we also have the folks that have bought backstage passes, and there they are, and what a good looking group they are. And we found out we have an international flair tonight. We have a backstage audience member who is from Colombia, South America. So welcome, Andrea. And thanks for really raising the level profile of the show by bringing us into the international realm. Also, let you know that unfortunately, Reggie Carpenter is sick. There's just this gunky cough thing, not COVID, that's going around. It's going around my house as well. And so Reggie, unfortunately, was unable to be here, but she reached out and Megan Wells was able to step in on short notice. And so we're thrilled to have Megan with us. Reggie, we hope that you get well very soon. So I seem to be the only healthy one at 6 Feet Apart Productions. And again, happy to be here tonight. We're going to have 4 storytellers, each telling either a traditional or personal story on the theme of holiday myths and magic. So really anything to do with the holidays, any holiday. We're not that particular. All the stories will be different, but they will all be entertaining. There shouldn't be any X-rated language, but we can't really be sure that there won't be some that's inappropriate for little ears. So you might want to shoo the kids into the next room. It's December 1st. Has anybody done their shopping or gotten it done? No, I haven't either. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. Mine was eventful, to say the least. It involved several emergency visits to the vet, a trail of blood across the kitchen from a dog's head wound, a cone on the dog, which just caused the blood to drip out onto the floor. I know this is more like a Halloween show. I'm sorry. Let's see. A sick child and one kid that backed out of the driveway and hit the neighbor's car as they were moving in. Hello and welcome to the neighborhood. So that's been my Thanksgiving week. And I want to say to the universe, I am grateful for everything that I have. So I got it. You don't have to challenge me again. Really, I'm grateful in spite of all that. But I do feel like with the plague in my house, it's like an Agatha Christie story, you know, like who's going to be the last one standing? I'm hoping it's going to be me, but I'm a little concerned. So, but enough about me and the plague and the craziness that is my house. I want to go ahead and get the stories flowing, and we'd like to chat a little bit with our storytellers at the beginning. So I'm going to bring up the first storyteller, and he was awarded the 2018 J.J. Renault. Oh, I'm getting a big wave from Claire. It's like I'm supposed to say something.
It's Megan Wells. Sorry.
Oh my God. Okay, so I think maybe the plague is coming my way. I'm a little, because apparently I've just lost my mind completely. So Megan Wells, who was great enough to step in for Reggie Carpenter. We're thrilled to have her with us. She was with us on the Braided Stories show in June, and she was also on a traditional storytelling show back in 2021. So we're familiar with Megan, and we'd love to have her here. And we're going to bring her up and ask her a few questions. So let's bring Megan up to the stage. Megan, I guess I was so excited that you were here. I just wanted to save you for later. I think that must have been it. I'm not really sure. This is why Claire does the curated shows, apparently. Anyway, welcome, Megan. Thank you for stepping in.
You are funny, girl.
Well, thank you. glad to, yeah. Whether I inadvertently or on purpose. Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
So tell us, we have a question that we're going to ask you, and that is, tell us about a holiday time that was either magical or mayhem. I've described my mayhem.
I'm about to. That's what my story is. So I don't want to.
All right, we can. I don't want to give away your story. So I have another question that we will ask you. And it has to do with a stalker that was chasing you around at Timpanogos. Yes. And I wonder if you could tell it happened. I got to apologize for Claire. It was Claire, my co-producer, was stalking people at Timpanogos, including Megan Wells. And I just want to know, how hard is it to get away from her? She doesn't seem like she's that fast. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think you've really lived until you've been chased by Claire Hennessy at Timpanogos. I mean, this whole idea of 6 feet apart just doesn't seem to work for her. So
I know. I think she wants to. I agree with you 100%. Claire just doesn't want to be 6 feet apart. She's
trying to cure 6 feet apart. That's the whole point,
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So and I will say she caught me twice.
She was relentless. I think she caught Simon Brooks as well, and a few other people. Donna Washington might have gotten caught in her clutches as well. But I'm sure she did no harm. And thank you for playing along with that. She had a lot of fun with you, Megan. And we are going to have a lot of fun as we listen to your story. So let's go ahead and bring Megan up to the virtual stage and hear her story on the theme of holiday magic and myths, or myths and magic. She's going to tell Married Christmas.
I was 35 years old when I met my husband, when I met Gary. And so it was a little late and our biological clocks were loud. So we quickly married, we honeymooned, we bought that sweet little Georgian house, and we made sure that it had 3 bedrooms because we wanted to fill it with 2 children forthwith, and we got about the business of it. So Thanksgiving rolled around, and next thing you know, we found ourselves ready to trim the tree. Our first Christmas together. Now, Gary brought down his box of Christmas ornaments. Here we we're in our 30s. We have had some Christmases alone. And so he opened up his box, and inside are just precious. There is a mobile made of construction paper of Santa's face that his mother had saved since second grade, third grade. There were pictures of him and his sister sitting in Santa Claus's laps in various malls across the state of Ohio. There was this beautiful snow globe. The snow globe had a full stag with a great rack of horns, a pine tree, 2 watching rabbits. And when you wound it up, it played in chiming tones. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. And so we went together very much like a ritual, and we put it right on the hearth, and we just knew that we were home. And the last thing in the box was the angel tree topper. And it was in its original box from Woolworths, made of pipe cleaners, netting, and wire. Then it was my turn. Yeah, it took a little bit longer. Yeah, because I had to bring down the 5 bins. And inside the 5 bins were all the Christmas ornaments that I had collected. Who knew which ones were from my child? There were so many. And my Santa collection. At that point, I believe I was already up to 20. There were tablecloths for Christmas, the matching napkins, the napkin rings. There were the little things that you put on the bottom of your wine glass so you know whose wine glass it is, and it's got its little pine cones. Oh, it's little Christmas cheer. Box after box after box, all the Christmas books. So there wasn't time to read them all at that moment. Finally, we get to the 5th box, and out comes 12 lords a leaping, 11 ladies dancing, 10 pipers piping, 9 drummers drumming, 8 maids in milk, and 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 little doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. And Gary just took it all in. And Gary, well, Christmas was my thing, and that was okay with him. And that felt like home. So we decorated the Christmas tree and discovered we had so much holiday compatibility. Is it going to be the Douglas fir? Is it going to be a Fraser? Is it going to be a balsam? No, Douglas fir, Douglas fir. What kind of lights? Are they going to be colored lights? Are they going to be white lights? Well, depends. You can alternate each year, but never twinkling. Christmas music, oldies, pop, or classical, mix them up. Don't ever open a present on Christmas Eve. Santa Claus gets cookies. The reindeer get carrots. And is it eggnog? Or is it hot cocoa? Duh. Both. It was a match, a Christmas match made for heaven. And so we got the tree up and we developed our nighttime ritual, which was Gary was the chief of safety and I was the chief of cleanup. And then he would pull out the Christmas lights. We would say goodnight to the tree. And when we go up our stairway to heaven to bring forth children into those 2 waiting bedrooms, Christmas Eve, same ritual, except we had a little step stool. Gary climbed the step stool. I handed him the little Woolworth's angel, which went right on the top of the tree. And then we prayed to that angel for 2 angels of our own, healthy and preferably not in the same set. And then we thought we might go make some. Mr. Safety turned out all the lights, locked the doors. I quickly arranged everything nice and neat and tidy, and we started up our stairway to heaven. And Gary, came to his senses, came back down the stairs, went behind the Christmas tree, and pulled out the Christmas tree lights. And the tree went dark. And I said, "What are you doing?" "What do you mean? What am I doing?" "Well, what are you doing?" "I'm unplugging the Christmas tree." "Oh, well, I see that, but why?" "What do you mean, why? I've been unplugging the Christmas tree every night." "Gary, it's Christmas Eve." "And you don't unplug the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve." "You don't?" No, of course not. You leave the Christmas tree lights on all night on Christmas Eve." "Well, no, I don't think I can do that." "What do you mean you don't think you can do that?" "No, I really don't think I can do that." "You have to do that." "Megan, how will Santa see?" "Megan, there is no..." He's a psychologist. He caught himself. "Santa is very real, but not that so he would need to have lights on a tree. It is 5 days past solstice. This is the darkest time of the year. Of course, Santa Claus needs the Christmas tree lights to see by. And I could see 1,000 synapses trying to connect in Gary's brain. No. Megan, I won't be able to sleep." I mean, it's a fire hazard. I don't even know if I changed the batteries in the smoke detectors since we moved in. No, now come on up to bed. No, I'm not going to be able to sleep. What do you mean you're not going to be able to sleep? I'm not going to be able to sleep unless the Christmas tree is lit for Santa Claus. But we can talk about this in the morning. No, we should talk about it now. Oh, I know. I'll go downstairs and I'll watch the tree to make sure the house doesn't burn down. And I turned and I walked down and I sat down on the couch. And he did not follow me. First married Christmas. And we'd been so compatible. I mean, doesn't he understand what magic is? And I realized I didn't even bring down a blanket or a pillow. And so I went over to my grandmother's basket, the large wicker where all her hand-me-down Afghans were. And I got myself a hand-me-down Afghan for the couch. And I found one of those Santa hats, with the white fur and the little white pom-pom. And I put that on my head and I lay down on the couch and said, "Bah humbug." And I said, "No, that's not right. I'm in support of Christmas." And I just looked at that tree with all those ornaments and the new ornaments that we had bought together. And we'd gotten silver, mirror silver, so they would reflect all those little LED lights. And I remember my childhood because I was always the last one. And I would lie down under the tree and I would turn upside with my head all the way deep in against the trunk so I could look up into all that eternal green, long drunk with pine sap, those big iridescent bulbs and the little bubble lights. Wait a minute. My father, my Swedish father, my stoic Swedish father, devoted to safety back in the day with those big, large, iridescent Christmas bulbs. If you got your little plastic ornament too close, it would melt the ornament, left burns on my hands. He was leaving the Christmas tree on all night. My whole childhood rearranged. Oh no, all those years, who was it? Who was doing it? Mother or father, who was waiting for the last of us to our last little stop to the pee to look at the tree, the last glass of water to look at the tree until we were all finally asleep and there was nary a creature, not even a mouse. Which one of them went downstairs and unplugged that Christmas tree? And then who woke up before we did and plugged it back in so that the children would come downstairs to the unending, eternal light of Christmas? All those years, I was the receiver of their magic. And now, married, hoping for children, I was going to become the magic maker. Oh, humility is warming. I got up, I put away the Afghan and took off my little hat and I went behind the Christmas tree. And there was a sense of ritual as I unplugged it, adulting, becoming the magician. But my inner child felt so lonely in that darkness. Santa. I knew what to do. I went over to the living room curtains, closed for privacy, and I pulled open the curtains, and it was a full moon. It was a bright moon. It flooded that living room. There, I said, Santa, plenty of light to see by. And then I made my way back up the stairs of heaven to spend our first married Christmas together. Thank you.
Yay, super. Wonderful, Megan. Wonderful.
Oh, bravo,
Fabulous.
bravo, bravo, bravo.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Terrific.
Yes.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much for that great story. I love your list of requirements for Christmas, for everything from the tree to the lights to the carrots and the cookies. And we tried to have that Christmas magic, but when you have a very engineering thinking 6-year-old who points out that why would Santa come down the chimney, get the carrots, take them back up, have the reindeer take a few bites, and then bring the carrot back down again? That just did not seem like a logical thing there. So, and plus, how is the sled going to fit on that peaked roof? So anyway, that's what happens. He's majoring in computer science right now. So our second performer, I think I've got the next 3 lined up correctly. I like to keep them on their toes. We're like, is it going to be me or not? Not sure. But our second performer has been telling stories professionally since 1985 and has performed for a diverse range of groups from preschool to adult, from Massachusetts to California. And she is the president of the Storytellers of San Diego and recently the Pacific Region Director for National Storytelling Network. And she was talking about in March, apparently there's a storytelling festival in San Diego that sounds lovely and it sounds very warm to go to San Diego. So let's bring up to the stage and have a little chat with Marilyn McPhie. Hello, Marilyn.
Hello, it's great to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. All right, I'll ask the question, which is, tell us a holiday memory that was either magical or mayhem.
Yeah, this one was mayhem, and I think there are a couple of other storytellers that have actually had an experience like this. Several years ago, I was telling stories in a Coast Guard hangar that was open on one side to the bay, and it was this huge cavernous room. And it was chilly, even in San Diego, because it was right by the bay. And the microphone was cutting in and out and in and out. And then Santa arrived in a helicopter. And that was the end of that.
Yeah, nothing just stops a story in its track like a Chinook landing outside your door. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Well, that does sound like mayhem. And the other thing is you've told stories to a wide variety of audiences in a wide variety of venues. But if you could choose your next venue, your next audience, maybe the ideal one for you or one you've always wanted to do, what would that be?
I think an ideal audience right now would be to gather all the people that I have shared stories and storytelling with over the past couple of years all around the world. Wouldn't it be so great to just bring all those people together in one place and share stories in person? That sounds like a lot of fun to me.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. I would love to meet in person all the people that I have met virtually, and then Claire could come and chase all of us around and stalk us. Well, great, Marilyn. We are very much looking forward to hearing your story. So let's bring Marilyn up to our virtual stage.
Thanks, Regina.
Thank you.
Once long, long ago, when wishing still helped, and when trolls were just magical creatures that appeared at Christmas rather than mean people who tried to steal all of your information on the internet, there was a family who lived in a land far away filled with ice and snow, a father and a mother and many children. And the loveliest of the children was the youngest daughter, who was so lovely it was said that she gave the sun a reason to shine. It was one evening after a meager meal, for they were very, very poor. You know, the wage gap and inflation and all the economic difficulties being what they were. After this meal, there were 3 taps on the window. Who taps on the window? I don't know. But the father opened the door, and there, standing in the doorway, was a great white bear. "Good evening, sir," said the bear, very politely, obviously smarter than the average bear. "And good evening to you," said the father. And then, having done away with all of the small talk and pleasantries, he got right down to the point. "I have come to ask for your youngest daughter. If you give her to me, you will be as rich as you are now poor." The father looked at his youngest daughter, and she said, "No, father, no." The father said, "I'll talk to her. Come back in a week." The following Thursday, the bear returned. The father had spent the entire week trying to convince his daughter that this going away with a great white bear would be the opportunity of a lifetime. And she said that she would go with the bear. Why? Well, maybe she was generous and altruistic and she wanted her family to be rich. Or maybe she was generous and altruistic and a little bit selfish too and figured that maybe she would be rich. Or maybe with 8 brothers and sisters, she figured that she might have a chance to have her own room for once. Or maybe she was just a teenager looking for adventure. Or maybe, just maybe, the thought of realizing that her father was willing to give her away to a large carnivorous mammal made her reassess her whole family structure and her place in it. At any rate, she agreed to go with the bear. He said, "Climb on my back and hold on tight." And she did. And soon they were off over ice and snow, going far and fast. "Are you not afraid?" said the bear. "I'm not," said the girl. That was not entirely true, but she'd always been told that when you were in a difficult situation, never admit to fear. They can smell fear. And so finally they arrived at a hill, and a door opened in the hill, and there was a castle. The castle was beautiful. There were fine carpets on the floors and tapestries on the walls and crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. It had been a long journey, so they were both happy to see a long table filled with all of the most wonderful kinds of food, fusion cuisine, locally sourced, non-GMO, sustainable. When each had his fill, the girl felt unaccountably weary, and the bear handed her a small silver bell and said, "Ring it, and whatever you need will be provided." So she rang the bell, and just like that, she was in a bedroom, a beautiful bedroom, and in the middle was a large, fine bed, furnished with sheets that looked very much like they must be Egyptian cotton, at least 800 thread count. So the girl sank down into the down because, of course, the pillows were the finest goose down, and soon she was fast asleep. But in the night, something or someone came and lay down next to her. Make of that what you will. But whatever or whoever it was gone by morning. And so the girl's days passed in this way. All the food, all the wine, all the chocolate that she could want, plus a library of wonderful books and all kinds of entertainment. But one day she said to the bear, "I miss my family. Could you take me back for a couple of days?" And he said he could. But he said, "If I do, there is one thing that you must bear in mind." You see what I did there? Said, "Your mother will want to take you aside and she will give you advice. Do not heed her advice, or the consequences will simply be unbearable for both of us." Well, she nodded her acknowledgement, and soon they were on their way back to meet with her family. Not back to the little cottage, of course, because the family, now rich, had moved on up to the east side in a beautiful mansion on the top of the hill, definitely an aspirational property. And her brothers and sisters came out eager to show her all of the things that they had acquired because of her. Her mother took her aside and said, "How is everything?" "Fine." No, how is everything really? "Fine." Mothers can be very persuasive. "No, really." "Everything is fine, Mother. There's just one thing. Every night, something or someone comes and shares my bed with me. Oh, who is it? Her mother said, very alarmed. I have no idea, said the girl. Well, perhaps it is a troll that is just waiting for an opportunity to eat you up. You should find out who your bedfellow is. And she handed the girl a small candle. Well, the visit was over, and the girl got back on the bear, and soon they were going across the ice and snow again. He said, did your mother give you advice? She said, she did. And remember my warning. She said, I remember. But several days later, her curiosity got the better of her. And in the night, when she knew that whoever it was asleep, she got the candle, she lit it, and she stood over him. Oh, it was not a troll, and it was not a bear. It was a man. And oh, he was beautiful. You know, most people look really sweet when they're asleep, unless, of course, they sleep with their mouths open and drooling and snoring. But he was doing none of those. He was so handsome, so gorgeous, that she simply could not resist giving him a kiss. And so she leaned close to do just that when several drops of the tallow from the candle fell on his shirt. How many drops? This is a fairy tale. 3 drops. He woke up and he said, what have you done? He said, if only you had been able to bear with me a little while longer, the spell would have been broken and I could be in my human form all the time. But now I must leave you and I must go far away to a castle that is east of the sun and west of the moon. And I must marry a terrible troll princess with a nose 3 ells long. I know you're wondering how long is an L. Well, traditionally, it is the measurement between an elbow and the tip of your longest finger, about 18 inches, although some Flemish L's can be twice as much as that. But even if it's only 18 inches, you have to imagine that a nose 3 L's long is really, really, really long. Anyway, the girl said, can I come with you? And he said, no, you can't. And she said, well, can you give me directions so that I can find you? GPS coordinates, anything? He said, no, you will never find me. It is far away, east of the sun, west of the moon. And in the morning when the girl awoke, everything was gone. The man was gone. The bear was gone. The castle was gone. Her fine clothes were gone. And she was once again dressed in rags. And so she set out walking, and she walked for a long time until she came to a cliff. And sitting beneath the cliff, there was an old woman, gray hair, wrinkled face, holding a golden apple in her hand. I hope somebody warned her about the tendency of such cliffs to be unstable. Here in Southern California, near the beach, we know this. Important warnings. Well, she asked the directions. She said, can you help me find the castle that is east of the sun and west of the moon? And the old woman said, I've heard of it, but I can't tell you how to get there. However, perhaps my sister can. She is older and wiser than I am. Take my horse, and when you get there, just give it a flick underneath its left ear, and it will come back to me. Oh, and sweetie, you can take the golden apple. It might come in handy. And so the girl went to the next cliff, even more unstable, with the next sister, even older and more wrinkled and more gray-haired and wiser, with a pair of golden carding combs. She asked the way to the castle that was east of the sun, west of the moon, and the sister said she didn't know. She said, but ask my sister. She is even older and wiser than I am. I just love the idea that the older you get and the more gray-haired and the more wrinkled, the more valuable and the wiser you are. Let's have all of our stories do that, shall we? So she went to the third cliff, and the third sister, who had a golden spinning wheel, she asked directions, and the sister did not know, but she did have a suggestion. She said, you should ride the wind. Winds blow everywhere, and they've probably been there. I'll introduce you to the west wind. And so she did. The west wind said, well, I don't have any idea, but I'll take her to the south wind. And so she climbed onto the west wind with the golden apple and the golden carding combs and the golden spinning wheel. Luckily, the wind had a very generous carry-on baggage allowance, and they blew to the south wind. South wind had no clue either. She was now on her second wind. Well, now they blew to the east wind. East wind didn't know and said, try the north wind. Well, when they got to the north wind was not in a happy mood, very, very grumpy. He said, yes, I have been there before. I blew an aspen leaf there, but as I recall, I was so winded, so out of breath, it took me days to rewind. But he was a sucker for a pretty face and a pleading voice. And so he said, come on, I'll take you there. And so soon they were flying over the rooftops, over the treetops, over the mountaintops. There were so many things blowing in the wind. Once they saw a little house that was spinning around, and there was a little girl dressed in a blue and white checked outfit with a basket and a little dog she called Toto. Anyway, they kept blowing, and finally, with his last gasp, the wind deposited the girl on the outside wall of a castle that was east of the sun, west of the moon. She sat there, she took out the golden apple, and a window opened in the wall, and a troll princess with a nose 3 ells long stuck her nose out. She said, what do you want for that apple? And the girl said, it's not for sale, but I will give it to you if you allow me to spend the night in the room with the prince who is to be married to you in 3 days' time. How do you even know about that? Well, no matter. It's a deal. And so that night, the girl was led into the room with the prince. He lay there looking more gorgeous than ever, sound asleep. She called his name. He didn't wake up. She called louder. She shouted. She screamed. She shook him. She wept. He slept. And in the morning, she was ushered out of the room. The next day, she made the same deal with the golden carding combs, and she was ushered into the room. And again, she called his name. She screamed. She shouted. She wept. He slept. The next day, though, the prince was out there in the castle, and some of the people who'd been held prisoner in a room right next to his, they said, how did you sleep? And he said, well, as usual. And you? They said, we haven't had a wink of sleep in the last 2 nights, and I don't see how you could sleep at all with all that weeping and screaming and crying. What was that? I have no idea, said the prince, but that made him think. And so that night, after supper, when the troll princess handed him a little nightcap, he did not drink it, but simply poured it into the nearest potted plant, which immediately began to droop. Well, this time, when the girl who had traded the golden spinning wheel for the last night with the prince was ushered into the room, she spoke his name, and he opened his eyes and sat up. You can hardly imagine the joy that filled that room. But sadly, the prince said that he was contractually obligated to marry the troll princess the next day, unless they could find a loophole. Well, the next day, with all of the wedding preparations in place, the prince happened to point out some really small print at the very bottom of that contract. He said, yes, I can only be married if I'm wearing a certain shirt, my lucky shirt. And unfortunately, it has 3 drops of tallow on it. And I can only marry the person who gets that shirt clean. Well, the troll queen said, oh, my daughter doesn't usually do the laundry. We've got servants for that. But how hard could it be? So she had brought in a wash tub and a washboard and some Clorox and some OxyClean, and the troll princess pushed up her sleeves and began to scrub the shirt. But the spots got larger and darker and larger and darker. The troll queen pitched in and the spots got larger and darker. All of the servants pitched in and the spots got larger and darker. And finally, in mock disgust, the prince said, I can't believe you can't do this, something simple like this. Why, there's a little beggar girl sitting out there by the wall. I bet even she could do it. So they brought the girl in and they said, can you wash this shirt? She said, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And as soon as she began to wash the shirt, the spots were gone. No more tallow spots, no ring around the collar. The shirt was white, pure white as snow, as white as a great white bear. Oh, looks like you're the one I'm supposed to marry, said the prince. And that made the troll princess so angry, so angry, so angry that she exploded. And so did the troll queen. And so did all the other trolls. And so the girl and the prince, they freed the prisoners. They collected up all of the treasures that the trolls had, figuring they wouldn't need it anymore. And they got back on the north wind, who'd had a chance to catch his breath. And soon they were flying away from the land of the castle that was east of the sun and west of the moon. They flew back to their own castle where they were married. And from all reports, lived happily ever after. You know, they got there. They were gone with the wind. Now, the story is long and kind of complicated and a little inexplicable, and you may have some questions about it. But if you do, I would like to assure you that, my friends, the answer is blowing in the wind.
Yay.
Woo, wonderful.
Fun,
Good
wonderful
job.
story. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Fabulous. Fabulous.
Yes.
Cute.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There was a lot of information packed into that story, right? I felt like I learned a lot about a lot of details in that story. That was great. Liked it a lot. Thank you so much, Marilyn. I want to give a shout out to a few folks that we got that were brave enough to put their names in the chat. A French 2009 is in the Bay Area. Mindy Donner from San Diego. Jane Dorfman's with us. Angela Lloyd from Victorville, California. And we've got Elena Beth Kay with us as well. So thanks so much for joining us. Feel free to throw your name into that chat hat and we'll give you a shout out. So now I'd like to bring up our next storyteller who I alluded to earlier on. I just wanted to build him up a bit, not that he needs that, but really want to build the anticipation for this man who is not the first storyteller. He's the third storyteller, but he was awarded the 2018 J.J. Renault Emerging Art Award and again the 2022 Regional Excellence Award by the National Storytelling Network. Whether he tells first or third, you can't take that away from him. So his stories remind us that fairy tales were never just for children. And in the last 2 years, he's become quite the virtuoso and leading producer of online content. And we have shared a lot of information with him, and it's been great to have his expertise and be able to share what works and doesn't work and how to produce shows online in this crazy environment. There's a lot of links to what he has coming up, and those will be in the YouTube chat, so be sure and take a look at that. But for now, let's bring him up and let's chat with Cooper Braun. He's finally here. Cooper, what took you so long, eh?
Things get in the way.
They do. So, all right, I have to ask this. Well, first I'll ask the question I've asked everyone, and that is, tell us briefly about a mayhem or a magical holiday that you had.
So I'm going to go with the magical side.
Okay.
2 years ago, at the end of the second, Christmas that COVID canceled, my partner and I we normally host a Christmas dinner for all of our friends. And so instead I cooked for a week and we delivered food to 26 people over the course of a very long day. And I don't do gifts very well, but I do food. It's the love language of my family. And it was really glorious to get to go and play Santa Claus for a day as it was. It was a really, really delightful time.
Well, that does sound magical. And then my next question, and I pulled this out of your bio, and that is, in your bio, it says that you were raised by granola-eating coyotes. So that really begs an explanation.
So my parents, I was raised in Boulder, Colorado in the 80s, which if you know anything about Boulder, it's a little fragment of sort of the Bay Area that got installed in the middle of Colorado. And it... I didn't have a television until I was 10. I've never owned a television that got reception. We ate carob, right? Like chocolate was off limits. That was the kind of experience I had as a child. Yeah. Some people experiment with drugs in high school. I experimented with like Mars candy. Over the counter candy was a really just a thing you had to hide from your parents. So it was an interesting upbringing.
Oh, that is funny. I like that. Yeah, carob. That is a really specific but excellent measuring stick for what you're saying. So I love that. Well, I can't wait to hear what you have to say, to tell us. I think it's a great story. I don't want to give it away, even the title. So I'll just let you take it away, Cooper. Thanks so much for being with us, and thanks for waiting to be third.
Thank you so much, Regina, and thank you so much, Claire, for inviting me to be on the show. It's really great. I produce my own show, Fairy Tale Variations, and it's really lovely, the community that's grown up around the production of virtual shows. It's been a really lovely time. So this story comes from a good friend of mine named Robin McFadden, who wrote a picture book. And if you enjoy this story, there will be a link to the picture book itself. Mine has wandered a little bit afield, but she's given me the rights to play with it and do what I like, and I hope you enjoy it tonight. Once, long ago at the beginning of things, when the world was new, it was always summer in those days. The days were long and the nights were short, and the sun walked with steady paces across the sky. And as he did, he looked down at the first creatures as they went about their lives. He loved to watch them. But as the days passed and the time passed, the little creatures looking up at the sun, they saw his head begin to droop. They saw his feet begin to falter as he walked. And there came a day. There came a day when the sun was prepared to step across the western mountains into that river that runs west to east beneath the earth, in which the sun and the moon, they drift and they sleep and they cool, and they are swept so that they might rise again the next day. As he was prepared to step across those mountains, his sister, the moon, she called to him across the expanse of the sky, my brother, what is wrong?" And he shook that great fiery head. I do not know. There is a heaviness in me, an emptiness I do not know how to feel or how to feed." And he stepped beyond the mountains. And that night, the moon whispered to the sea in the secret language that they share, I believe that my brother is lonely." And the sea, it spoke to the fish as it does, and they, up the rivers they went, and they spoke to the animals that came there to the banks to drink. And by the rising of the next morning sun, when he stepped across up into the sky, all the world knew that the sun was in need of a friend. And the eagle, the chief of the birds, she called a great council of her people, and there in a clearing they sat on branch and tree, on rock and upon the ground, and they twittered and they chirped and they cawed and they squawked and they talked, and finally she held up her wings for silence, and it came. "My folk, my people, surely you have heard. Surely you have heard what all speak, that the sun is in need of a companion to walk or fly across the sky with him. And if any are to do it, surely it must be one of us. Who will undertake to fly so high?" And it was the first raven, her wings as white as clouds, who stepped forward. I will go." And she began to beat those wings up and up and up and up she went, and the sun, looking down, it was as if a speck of cloud detached itself, growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And in his burning heart he felt it grow warm. Someone was coming. He held out his hands as she drew close. She landed there. She caught her breath. I have come to accompany you across the sky." Little sister, thank you. Thank you for making the flight to here, but you cannot stay. You cannot stay even now. Your wings, they blacken in my heat, and if you stay, I will destroy you. Please take my thanks, but go. She fell away from his heat, glad to be away. Her wings now burned so black. And in the days and weeks that followed, each bird in turn tried, the osprey and the swallow, the hawk and the wren, the little hummingbird. He blew, his wings, they fluttered so quickly that his breast turned red, and it has been red ever since. But for all the birds that could make their way to the sun, none in turn could stand his heat, and all were forced to fly away. And the sun's head hung lower still, knowing that none could stand his presence. And there came a night that he crawled from the river beneath the world, and he sat on a stony ledge there, and he hung his head in his hands, and he wept tears of fire that scorched the ground where they struck. And then in that firelit darkness, there came a voice. What is the matter? It was a small creature with gray fur and a white face and a black stripe. Little one, I know you not, but if you stay in my presence, my flames, they will destroy you. Please, do not put that upon my conscience. No, you are warm, and that is nice. But I have dug deep. I have seen the glowing veins of our mother's blood and the fire spirits that dance there. You are warm, but you will not hurt me. Are you the sun? When I dig close to the surface, I hear the creatures of that world. They speak of you. Would you like tea? The sun did not know what tea was. But Badger took the son by the hand and led him through caverns of stone, across chasms, and here, to the left, he pushed open the doors of his own house, an immense geode hung with gems, and the sun's light, it caught those crystal and jeweled facets, sending rainbows dancing around the room. There is only the one chair. You sit there and I will make tea. Badger filled a clay pot with mushrooms and roots, and when it was steeped, he poured it. He pressed the cup into the son's hands. Now, tell me what is wrong. I do not know how to describe it. There is a hollow emptiness in me, and the people that come, I drive them away. I do not know how to fill it. You sound lonely. Perhaps you are right. Would you tell me about it? And the son began to speak about how he looked down on the world and he saw the lives of all the creatures, how they loved and they lived, how they fought, how they made war, how they made peace. All of them had community, and he had none. Even my sister. When we are on the sky together, the gulf is so great that to call across it, I see her so little. They spoke late and later still into the night. If you do not leave, they will miss you. And the son, he sprinted from Badger's door, down that river, up into the sky, and if he was a little late, the animals, they saw his head was high, his shoulders back, his steps were strong, and they knew that somehow the son had found a friend. That next night, he returned to Badger's door, and there he told him the stories of the creatures of the upper world. There is the tiger, there is the snake, there is algae, there are wasps, there are trees. Late again they spoke, and again he rushed from Badger's door. In the days that followed, Badger told him of his delvings deep into the earth, of the other creatures there beneath the world. I know the snake too. He comes sometimes, and there is the moles, and the millipedes, and the worms. And day after day, their friendship it grew. And as those days passed, the son's steps grew quicker across the sky. He laughed to himself of some joke he had shared with his new friend, thinking on some story he had not yet told Badger. And he did not notice. He did not notice what happened beneath him. The leaves grew yellow and gold, orange and red. They fell from the trees. Frost formed into snow in the air and blew across the lands for the first times. The trees, naked now, bore it patiently as trees always do, but the animals, they huddled together. No one knew what this strange time was. And there came a night at Badger's door that Badger held up his paw. Something is wrong. Come. Badger led the son up tunnels that had never known light, there to a shallow place. Here, put your ear to the roof. The son did as he was bid. And he heard. He heard the sound of wind through empty branches. He heard the chattering of teeth and shivering there. Oh no. This is my doing. I have been away too long. This is my fault. I must return now. Return to how it was. I must fix this. But Badger, he caught the son by the hand. No, my friend, no. Hasty work makes bad burrows. If you return now, who knows what would happen? Not us. We obviously have no wisdom between us. Who would we ask? The trees. The trees are the oldest of the people, and Grandmother Pine is the eldest of the trees. I would ask her, but I do not think I could face her knowing what I have done. Then I will go, and I will bring gifts to assuage her anger. Come. They returned to Badger's house, and there he filled a satchel full of the finest of his gems, his most precious possessions. Then a sack with as much food as it could hold. He took up a lantern, and he made his way up and up and up and up until he came again to that shallow place, and he began to dig through frozen ground and then through snow and emerged for the first time into the upper world. The snow glowed white beneath the moon, and there, looking down, was Grandmother Pine. Little one who befriends the sun. Long have I felt you dig beneath my roots, and now we meet. Please, we did not know. We did not know our friendship would cause this. Please, if he returns now, if he returns to the way it was, if we never see one another again, we'll all be made well. No. If the sun was to return to his former ways, then all would be washed away in flood and chaos. Please tell us what we must do. I have brought you gifts. Badger opened his satchel. There, the moonlight and his lantern together caught on the facets of those gems. They sparkled. Pretty, but for which I have no use. It is simple, little one. He must return as he left, little by little by little, until at last the days are long and the nights grow short. Thank you. I will tell him, though I will miss him. Badger turned to go, but as he did, Grandmother Pine, she shook herself. The snow fell in flurries from her branches. But then it ceased to fall. The moon and the stars stopped in their tracks, and it was as if the whole world together held a breath. Little one, know that my roots touch the heartbeat of our mother, and I speak now with her voice. The sun must have a friend, and she has decided to welcome these dark times and call them winter. It shall be such. For 7 turns of his sister the moon, the sun will walk each day more in the sky until the days are long and the nights are short. And then Then he will return to you night by night until we come to this last, longest night. So let it be. And I swear I will return every year on this longest night for gifts for all the little creatures that bear patiently the cold and the dark, to remind them that there is kindness and joy and warmth even in winter. Will you tell them? Badger put his satchel over his shoulder. He put his lantern in his mouth, and he began to climb Grandmother Pine. Up and up through her branches until the boughs began to sway underneath his weight. I am almost there. Up and up and up until he stood in her upmost boughs. There he placed the lantern, and as he made his way down, he set those jewels amongst her needles. And the animals saw. The animals saw that lantern shine like a new star on the horizon, and they came, and they saw. The glade was filled with rainbows between the lantern light and the moon, catching the gems that hung in Grandmother Pine's boughs, and there beneath her branches a feast laid out, enough for all and more. The badger waved his goodbye, and he disappeared beneath the earth to tell the sun what they must do. And so it has been, since those first days until these now. And the sun is still known when they draw close together to tell his sister the moon, you know, the seasons they turn on the wheel of friendship. And when the days are long, he is there. He perches there beside the river, and he waves to me as I am swept by beneath the earth. And when the nights grow long, I come, and you know he has made me my own chair. And when we come to that night, that longest night in 20 days' time from now, he will return, as he does every year. That night when we hang the pine's boughs with jewels and lights still, he will bring gifts for all the creatures that bear patiently the cold and the dark, to remind them that there is joy and love even in darkness, as long as the solstice badger keeps his promise. And you know, he always will.
Wonderful, wonderful, Cooper.
Thank you.
Just fabulous.
I love that story.
That's so beautiful.
story.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
this
Thank you.
badger.
Thank you.
The solstice badger. Thank you for that, Cooper. That was a beautiful story. I could, especially as you said, in 20 more days, I'm looking forward to the sun slowly coming back into being. I had a flash in the middle of that story, though. I was just somehow expecting Puxatawny Phil to show up, but I'm wondering if they were maybe related. But that was a beautiful story. Yeah, that comes in February. That's a whole different fairy tale. Anyway, thank you very much, Cooper. Wonderful to have you here. Nice to finally meet you virtually. Well, we're going to wrap up our show. We have one more storyteller, and she was described by the Washington Post as someone who spreads cultural truths that eclipse geopolitical boundaries, which, if she can encompass all that into a holiday magical and myth story, I'm looking forward to it. She's internationally acclaimed storyteller, author, and coach. She uses mesmerizing voices and timing to just paint the picture. Warm authenticity. I've heard so much about her, but I've yet to hear her tell. So I'm very excited about this. She captivates audience of all ages, and especially diverse cultures and her own rich Jewish heritage. So very excited to bring up and have a little chat with Noa Baun. And there will be plenty of links in the YouTube. Please take a look at those and find out more information about Noa. Hello, Noa. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. This has been so fun.
Oh, wonderful.
enjoying
I'm
myself.
glad. I'm so glad. I'm enjoying myself immensely, especially the part where Claire doesn't get to say anything except when I screw up. Which thankfully I've gone about 45 minutes without doing so. So first question now, unless you're doing a story that is going to give it away. So holiday mayhem or magic. Do you have a little ditty you can tell us that
Well,
is
my
not
story
in the story?
my story is a little bit of my story is a little bit about magic, but as a Jew, I don't celebrate these particular holidays. We celebrate Hanukkah, but it's not really a big holiday in my tradition. It's very big in America, but not in Israel. It's not the biggest holiday. And actually, one of my biggest memories is from Passover, which is kind of like the biggest holiday for us. And when I was a little girl, we have a tradition on the Passover Seder that we fill a cup for Elijah. And when I was a little girl, my mother always made us close our eyes for Elijah. And I was always scared of that part because you close your eyes and they open the door to the dark stairway of the apartment building and comes in. And I always wanted to see him, but I had to close my eyes. And one year, I think I was 4 or 5, I really wanted to see him. And I kind of was the one invited to go open the door. And I was really, really scared, but I opened the door and I ran back. And my mother said, everybody close your eyes for Elijah. Because when you opened your eyes, always the wine glass was half empty. So it was the proof that Elijah had been there. And I was determined to see, and I felt this breeze right around my neck. And I knew it was Elijah. I just knew it. And I kind of peeked a little bit and I could see the wine quivering at the top of the cup. And my mother said, close your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
no peeking. I said, no, I'm not peeking. And of course, when I opened my eyes, the cup was half empty. But that year I knew that Elijah had been there. So I had my own proof.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that's magical. And we're not that specific on whatever holiday. It's whatever one that means something to you. That is completely fine. All right. Well, listen, I really want to hear your story. So let's go ahead and bring you up to the virtual stage. Welcome, Noa. So happy to have you at 6 Feet Apart Productions.
Thank you so, so much. I think about this time of year of lights and magic and praying. And, I never did pray. I grew up in Jerusalem, in Israel, and praying was just never part of my upbringing. Yes, occasionally, we lit the Sabbath candles. My father would say the blessing on the wine. On Passover, there's all sorts of blessings as part of the ritual, but that's tradition. I never paid attention to the words. The words had no meaning. I don't pray. I'm an Israeli. I am a secular Jew. Praying is for religious people, old people. They go to synagogue and mutter words from ancient books. But my grandmother, my Savta Mina, was religious. And all through my childhood, from the age of 4 through 17, every holiday, every summer vacation, I am with my Savta Mina. She had a small 1-bedroom flat in Tel Aviv, where right above the piano in the tiny little bedroom, there was the picture of Yaakov, a young man with the hat of a religious man. Yaakov was her son, my mother's brother. He was killed in the 1948 war when he was 22 years old. When her brother was killed, my mother stopped being religious. But my Savta, my grandmother, never talks about her son Yaakov. And in the living room of her little flat, there is a framed embroidery with a meadow, little specks of red flowers in it. And we know that Yudit embroidered it. Judith was her daughter, my mother's sister. She died when she was 23 years old. We were always told that Judith died of a lung disease. And it was only decades later, when I was in my late 40s, that I discovered that Judith, who was 15 when her brother was killed, never recovered from his death. And after 8 years of struggle with depression, at the age of 23, took her own life. Is that why there's no pictures of Judith anywhere? The taboo of suicide. My Savta never talks about those she lost. My Savta never cries. My Savta is always full of life and energy. When I'm with my Savta, it's gegangen. Let's go. We go places. Every day we go to the beach. We go to visit the cousins. We go to the market. She buys me everything. Freshly squeezed carrot juice from street vendors until we have white mustaches. Not quite as long as Cooper's, but we have very distinct mustaches. She buys me dresses and patent leather shoes and ribbons for my hair, anything I want. And my Savta loves to joke around with me. She grabs my butt and she says, "Is this a große Tuches? Is this a big butt?" And I say, "No, you have a große Tuches." "Nein, Savta. Savta has a sehr große Tuches. Savta has a very huge." When I'm with my Savta, we laugh, we do things. But because she is religious, on the Sabbath, every Friday evening, my Savta lights the Sabbath candles. And when I was a little girl, watching her light those candles was a special, magical time. I especially love the time before the candles are lit on Friday afternoon. It's that time when, in my mind, it's the hour of the doves. It's that time when suddenly all the buses stop running all at once and everything stops. The hustle and the bustle, the engine rumblings, even conversations become quieter and no one yells. It becomes so quiet that suddenly you can hear the doves. They're always there, invisible, in the eaves beneath the roof. And I love to sit in the enclosed balcony on the folding aluminum lounge chair and listen, embraced by their cooing, the mysterious gurgles of their conversations. I'm cradled in peace. That is the hour of the doves. But then the light changes, the sun begins to set. And in the kitchen, I hear my Savta preparing the candles in the 3-branched silver candelabra. So I got to watch. And I say, why are there 3 candles? She shrugs. Zu Gedanken, to remember. And I watch as she covers her head with a sheer white handkerchief and she lights the candles and she circles her hands like an ancient sorceress invoking the light to dispel the darkness. And then she covers her face and she begins to pray. And then her lips continue to move, but I can't make out the words anymore. And it's a little scary. Suddenly it's not my Savta anymore. She's whispering on and on and on, names, strange names. Hashik, Ruja, Idale. hypnotized. I watch a trickle of tears inch its way through her fingers along the grooves of wrinkles of her hand, and my throat tightens. I want to reach out and pull those hands away from her face, get my smiling, loving Safta back, make that trickle stop. But she's so far out of my reach. Like something holy I know I'm not allowed to touch. I just stand and watch. And finally, the long list is over, and she always ends with the same two names. Meine Juditul, my Judith, meine Yakovale, my Yakov. And then she sighs, and the hands come off her face. She wipes the tears, and her smile is back. A guten Shabbos, a good Sabbath. Soll sein Shalom, let there be peace. Umein, umein, umein. Amen. She pulls me close into her smothering embrace that smells of poor 7-Eleven cologne and fried onions and cheap lipstick. And she covers my face and cheeks and head with kisses. Her arms are the safety and the comfort of this world. For years, I witnessed that magic ritual over and over and over. When I was a teenager, I began to understand that those names she mutters are of all those she lost. Zu gedanken, to remember. Her mother and father, brothers, sisters, their husbands and wives, the children, her cousins, aunts, uncles, all taken from her by the Nazis. In my 20s, I still came over to my Safta Mina almost every Friday, but in the early afternoon, I never stayed all the way to the hour of the doves. I was busy. Gegangen, on the go. I sat in a cafe with all my friends, a sacred Friday afternoon ritual in Tel Aviv. Who has time for all this old world stuff? And who needs all this remembering anyway? The year I got married, my Safta Mina started to forget. A year later, when I left for America with my new husband, she no longer recognized me. And 9 months later, when I was 8 months pregnant with my first child, my Safta Mina died alone in a nursing home. And I was so angry. I was angry that she died. I was angry that she died alone, so far from me, not herself. Why did this happen? Why does it have to happen? Why did she have to lose her mind like that? Didn't want to think about my broken heart. I didn't cry. There's an old story from Syria about a drought. They say it was a terrible drought. The people prayed for rain, they fasted, but no rain came. And one night, the rabbi hears a voice in his dream that says, God will send rain only if Rachamim Chayat will pray for the people. And the rabbi wakes up confused. Rachamim Chayat. It's the silent man that sits at the back of the synagogue. He doesn't know how to read. How can he lead the people in prayer? But what other choice does he have? He decides to listen to the voice in his dream, and he gathers the congregation once again to pray for rain. And everybody gathers at the synagogue, all in front of the bima. That's the elevated space in the middle and front of the synagogue, right before Aron HaKodesh, the holy ark, the cabinet that holds the scriptures, the holy texts. Everybody is waiting for the rabbi to step up on the bima and lead them in prayer. But the rabbi stands up and says, Yalev Yavo, come forth and pray in the name of the people. Rachamim ben David, Rachamim, the son of David. Rachamim at the back of the synagogue looks up. His name. To be called to the bima in front of Aron HaKodesh. Trembling, he comes forward. He whispers in the rabbi's ears, Rabbi, I don't know how to read. Please, do not shame me. The rabbi said, Rachamim, today you are shliach tzibur. You are the representative of the congregation. It is you must pray for us. Mortified, Rachamim is looking around. All eyes are upon him. He asks permission to bring something that he needs in order to be able to pray. And soon he's back at the synagogue with a small clay jar that has 2 spouts in it. Still trembling, he steps up on the bima facing the congregation and he says, I ask that you pray with all your heart. And then he turns to face Aron HaKodesh, and as is the custom, the congregation rises all to their feet, and everybody chants the appropriate words for this moment when Aron HaKodesh is open to reveal the sacred Torah scrolls, and now it is the time for the leader to lead them in prayer, but Rachamim is not holding a prayer book, he's holding a clay jar. And he says, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, I don't know how to read. I'm a poor man. Sometimes it's hard. My children go hungry, and when they're hungry, they cry. And when they cry, my heart breaks, and I cry too. I collect my tears in this jar. It is all I have, Ribono shel olam. I now offer it to you. If this jar of tears is not enough, I'm willing to break it here before all the people. And at that moment, there was a flash of lightning and a crash of thunder, and rain began to fall. I didn't cry. I didn't cry for many years for my Savta Mina who was gone. But one day, it was a Friday afternoon, but I was far, far from the hour of the doves. I was living here in America. My daughter just turned 5. My son was 3. And it was a quiet Friday afternoon. The sun was just beginning to set, and suddenly I heard the cooing of a dove. And I found myself taking 2 candles and putting them in the candlesticks I got in a garage sale. And I found myself circling my hand like she did and covering my face. And suddenly I was there at the kitchen table, watching my Savta Mina bring in the light to dispel the darkness. And the tears began to trickle through my fingers. I had no idea what the words of the prayer were, so I just made up my own. Brucha Shechina b'libeinu, Brucha Shabbat b'veiteinu, Shabbat Shalom. Blessed is the female spirit of the divine. Blessed is the Sabbath in our heart, in our home. May it be a Sabbath of peace. And then I kissed my children. And you know, I've been doing it ever since. Today I know the words of the prayer and I chant them as I light the candles, but I always add those ones that I made up. And I feel close to my Savta Mina when I pray. And sometimes I offer my tears. May you have light and warmth and peace this holiday season, wherever you are and whatever holiday you celebrate. Thank you.
It was beautiful.
Oh,
Noah.
Noah, just
Yeah,
lovely.
really,
Thank you
really
so much.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Noah. That was beautiful. That was magical. That was mythical. That was all of it rolled. What a wonderful ending to this show with such a variety of wonderful stories that made us laugh, made me cry a little bit there, I have to say. But wonderful. Thank you nonetheless. I'm going to bring up, I'm going to let her because she's just demanding. She's banging her pink cast on the desk. Claire Hennessy. Oh, wait. I did that just so you would do that. This is Claire. You can't see her. Claire's doing this. So I think what that means is I'm going to bring the storytellers back up one at a time, and I'm going to bring them up in the order that they appeared, if I can remember it, and I think I can. The first one is not Cooper Brown. First one I'll bring up is Megan Wells. Hey, Megan, how are you?
Hi.
Anything that you have coming up that you'd like to tell us about?
Yes, we have moonshine stories every full moon. And so we're building a beautiful community that comes every full moon. And our next one is December 7th. And we'll have Janice Del Negro, Angela Lloyd, and our Sarah Armstrong, who's here in our studio audience.
Oh, wonderful. And is that it? Can they find the information at your website, meganwells.com?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So go to that. Well, and thank you again, Megan, for jumping in and being here. It was wonderful to see
My
you.
absolute pleasure. I would have been here one way or the other. So
yeah, wonderful. All right. Second up, let me bring up Marilyn McPhie to our stage and find out what's going on with you, Marilyn. What's coming up?
A lot of things that are in person and local. So come
Okay.
to San Diego and you can see me telling winter stories for Oasis and some things at a library. And with the Storytellers of San Diego at a new venue called Template that is really quirky as Ocean Beach can be. And if you've ever been to Ocean Beach, you know that's pretty darn quirky.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's the Viking-themed Vista Mead Hall, Twisted Horn Mead Hall. And that's super fun. But I want to make sure that you're all invited to our one-day San Diego Storytelling Festival on March the 18th. You will want to be in San Diego by March. You really will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's lovely. It's going to be in Coronado. So let me know if you're coming, and we will welcome you with flip-flops and beach hats and open arms, and it will be super fun. So thanks for letting me be here. What a wonderful evening.
Pleasure to have you. In San Diego and Coronado do sound wonderful. And I'm sure you can track Marilyn down at her website and tell her that you're coming to San Diego and you'd like to pitch a tent in her front yard. Next up, let's bring Cooper Brown up and let's hear what he's got coming up, because I'm sure he's got a lot going on. He always does. Hi, Cooper. Welcome back. And what have you got on your plate, sir?
I have 2 shows in a week. A week from today, I'm performing as part of Tell Speak Pittsburgh, the Tell Speak Pittsburgh series, their Winter Olio, alongside my storytelling partner, Rachel Ann Harding and Adam Booth. It's going to be a really, really fun Olio show. That's on a Thursday, and then the Saturday after that is Rachel Ann Harding and my's 8th year anniversary performing together. It is the 8th year of Stories of Spirit. Our first show was right around the solstice, and we always try to do a show basically as close to the winter solstice as we can. And it's a show we look forward to every year. This is our 3rd one we've done on Zoom. To those of you who are local, we're trying to get back in person. But the Zoom community is so large and loving now. And so thank you all so much for inviting me on the show. It's really great to be here.
Well, you are more than welcome. We are love all of you who came and told your stories. And let's bring up Noa Baun and see what she has on her plate as well. Noa, welcome back.
Thank you. Well, there's 2 upcoming events where I'm MC. I'm not going to be half as funny and wonderful as you, Regina, but I'm really looking forward to it. One is coming up this Sunday. The Healing Story Alliance has a wonderful, wonderful concert, Kindness in concert, where there's featured tellers, Carol Birch, Bobby Norfolk, and Joel Ying. You do not want to miss it. And we have 2 community tellers, Carmen Scafidi and Cindy de Ruyter, who tell stories of acts of kindness in their community. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful event. And then I'm emceeing December 14th, the Grapevine with Elizabeth Ellis, and you do not want to miss the great Elizabeth Ellis. And then I have one event that's only if you speak Hebrew or know if people who want to take my online storytelling class in Hebrew. I'm starting to teach it this Monday. And on December 13th, I'm doing a live reading for the Howard County literary reading series called Wild Readings in Columbia, Maryland. So that's local here. And I'll be reading excerpts from both of my books. So that should be really fun.
Wonderful. And I know we can find all of this at your website, Noa Baun. So that was a lot. You have a lot coming up. And maybe you won't MC exactly like me, but maybe you'll get the order right. So you'll have that going on. And I think anybody who needs to hire an MC, reach out to me, because I think Claire might fire me after tonight. I'm not 100% sure. I might be out of a job. So, but now I am really going to bring Claire up so she can mock me to the wide community and have her tell you about a couple of shows that we have coming up at 6 Feet Apart Productions. Hey, Claire.
Regina, finally on the screen. You did an excellent job. And gosh, what fantastic stories. Thank you all so much. I was listening to all of them. I can't be on the screen too much, but it was wonderful. What a lovely, lovely way to end out our year. Thank you. Although we do have another show, it's just a different type of show, because we do an open mic story slam. And these are true personal stories, sort of in the theme of the moth. They're 5 to 6 minute stories on a theme. There's still some spaces available for the December the 14th show, and the theme is "'Tis the Season," so it's very loose. Just enjoy yourself. And this will be our last open mic of the year, and this is to feed into the Stellar Slam, which will be in February. So, and you get a lovely mug, and then at the Stellar Slam you get a trophy. So it's definitely worth doing. And then in January, what we're going to do, because we like all you traditional storytellers out there, so we're doing Once Upon a Time open mic, and this will just be, it's not going to be competition. There'll be 10 storyteller slots, but they're for everybody to do a traditional tale on whatever theme you like, but 5 to 6 minutes. So similarly to the open mics that we do for true personal stories, but we thought, traditional tellers don't get quite the same thing, so we're doing that, and we did it last year and it was really lovely. So sign up and tell a traditional tale. And then there'll be other shows in the new year, but we'll come to those soon. We'll put information on our website if I can possibly keep that updated. Didn't do a very good job this week.
And I want to point out too that our open mics, like the one that's coming up on December 14th, if you sign up for a storytelling slot, it's a guaranteed storytelling slot. So the order is random, but if you buy a storytelling ticket, you will be guaranteed that you will tell your story on our virtual stage. And that will be the same with the Once Upon a open mic as well. So that's just a slight difference from shows such as The Moth, where you don't know if you're going to get pulled. But for our show, you will tell your story. So and other than that, I think we are out. I want to, let's see, Dallas D from Pittsburgh and Katie Knutson from, I'm going to guess, Minnesota with a name like Knutson. I'm not sure. I think she's in the center of the country, though. Katie, I'm sorry if I got that wrong. They were with us as well in YouTube. And for everyone who is in YouTube and didn't put their name in the chat or did, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us for the show. And of course, our stellar backstage audience. It was wonderful to have so many of you here. It's great to see everyone. You were really enthusiastic. There you are. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And from Claire Hennessy, from the tech guru, and from me, your MC, Regina Stoops, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful holiday season. We hope to see you on the 14th. And be safe, be well, and thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.